I never thought I'd see something like that in my life, watching from hundreds of miles away as the president of my HOA broke into my house in the middle of the night. She stepped through my front door with a flashlight like she was some kind of undercover agent. What she didn't know was that my K9 Rex was waiting for her on the other side of that door. I live in one of those neighborhoods that looks perfect on the outside. Neat lawns, white fences, quiet mornings where everyone waves just enough to look friendly. But behind those smiles is a web of gossip control and the kind of rules that make you wonder if freedom stops at the edge of your driveway. Our homeowners association runs everything, and at the top of it all was a woman named Karen Matthews. Yeah, a real-life Karen. Short blonde bob, white blazer, clipboard glued to her hand like a badge of power. From the day I moved in, she made it clear I didn't belong. My pickup truck was too loud, my privacy fence was too high, and Rex, my service dog, was not appropriate for a peaceful neighborhood. I tried to stay polite, even friendly. I showed her Rex's certification, explained the fence met HOA regulations, and smiled through her condescending tone. She just smirked, wrote something down on that clipboard, and said, "We'll see about that." That's when I knew she wasn't just another nosy neighbor. She was the kind of person who thought rules existed for everyone except her. For weeks I'd catch her pacing by my property line, pretending to measure things or take pictures. Once I looked out my window and saw her snapping a photo of my truck like she was building a case file. I brushed it off, figured she'd get bored eventually. But Karen didn't get bored. She got obsessed. Things escalated quietly. Letters started showing up, warnings from the HOA about minor violations. The mailbox flag wasn't painted the right shade of red. My trash cans were visible from the street. The grass along the fence was uneven. It was laughable but also exhausting. I started questioning if I'd made a mistake moving there. I'd bought that house after a rough couple of years. I needed peace. I needed normal. Instead, I got surveillance and pettiness disguised as community management. Still, I tried to be reasonable. I thought, it's just one woman. I'll keep my head down. But it's funny how people like Karen take silence as permission. A few months later, I had to leave town for a quick weekend work trip, just Friday through Sunday. I left Rex at home. He's well-trained, a certified K9 who keeps me grounded. I had my full security system running, cameras in every main room door and window sensors, live feed accessible from my phone. It always gave me peace of mind. That Friday night, I was sitting in my hotel room half asleep over some emails when my phone buzzed. Notification, front door opened. My stomach dropped. For a moment I told myself it had to be a glitch, but when I tapped the live feed, my blood ran cold. The camera flickered for a second, then cleared, and there she was. Karen. Inside my house. She stepped into my living room like she owned it, flashlight in hand, muttering to herself about regulations and unauthorized property modifications. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear her. I watched frozen as she moved through my living room, her beams sweeping over my furniture, my photos, my life. She had no right to be there. None. At first I didn't even know what to do. Part of me thought maybe I was dreaming. But then she went to the small table by the door and started flipping through my mail. Envelopes, bank letters. She was reading them. I felt sick. I called 911 right away, voice shaking, explaining that I was out of town, but my home security showed a woman, an intruder, inside. "She's the HOA president," I said, "and my trained K9 is there with her." The dispatcher told me to stay on the line. I switched my phone to speaker and kept watching. Karen moved down the hall toward my office, the one door that's usually shut. That's where I keep my personal files, work computer, everything important. She turned the knob, pushed the door open, and there he was. Rex. My boy was standing dead center in the room, calm, steady, silent. His ears were up, his eyes locked on her. Karen froze. For a second, neither of them moved. Then Rex let out a deep, low growl that rolled through the speaker like thunder. Karen screamed, stumbled backward, and fell right into my office chair, knocking papers everywhere. Rex didn't lunge. He didn't attack. He just stood there guarding the doorway, letting her know she wasn't welcome. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Through the phone, I could hear the dispatcher confirming units were on their way. I just sat there, heart racing, eyes glued to the screen as Karen sat trapped in my office, hands trembling, trying to decide whether to run or cry. Rex didn't move an inch. A few minutes later, flashing red and blue lights filled the feed. Officers entered through the front door carefully, slowly. One called out, "Ma'am, keep your hands where we can see them." Another stepped between her and Rex, giving him a gentle command to stand down. He obeyed instantly. Good boy. Karen was escorted out, still rambling about community safety checks and concern for the neighborhood. I stayed on the phone, gave them my details, and the officer told me they'd secure the house until I returned. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying it all in my head. What if Rex hadn't been there? What if she'd stolen something, or worse, hurt him? The thought made my chest tighten. For a few minutes I honestly felt defeated. Like no matter what I did, I'd never escape people like her, people who think authority gives them the right to humiliate others. I almost decided to just let it go, to come home quietly and forget it happened. But then I thought of Rex, how he'd stood his ground, how calm and loyal he'd been in that moment. He didn't back down. So why should I? By the time I got home the next morning, the police were finishing up. My front door lock was broken, the frame slightly cracked. Karen was sitting in the back of a squad car, face pale, trying to explain that she thought something was wrong because my curtains were closed during the day. The officers weren't buying it. They let me show them the footage myself, every second of it. Karen walking in, snooping through my mail, entering my office, taking photos on her phone. When the video ended, one of the cops just shook his head and said, "Well, she won't be doing that again." She was charged with trespassing and attempted burglary. Word spread fast through the neighborhood. Some people tried to defend her at first, said it was a misunderstanding. Others stayed quiet, too afraid to take sides. But the HOA board, of course, called an emergency meeting to review the incident. I showed up. I walked into that room with my laptop under my arm. Karen wasn't there, she'd taken personal leave. The other board members sat in a row behind a long table, avoiding eye contact. The president's seat, her seat sat empty. When they started talking about the importance of civility and community trust, I plugged my laptop into the projector without saying a word. The screen flickered and the video began to play. There she was, clear as day, stepping into my house, flashlight in hand. A few gasps filled the room. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." I let the whole thing play, her rummaging through my mail, sneaking down the hall, the scream when Rex appeared. I didn't speak until the clip ended and the room went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the projector fan. Then I said quietly, "That's your president." No one moved. No one defended her. The next day I got an email from the HOA attorney. Karen had resigned, effective immediately. A week later, a formal apology arrived in the mail along with a check to cover my broken lock and legal costs. The irony wasn't lost on me. Now whenever I see her walking her little white poodle past my house, she crosses to the other side of the street. She won't even look up. And Rex, he still sits by the window every afternoon, tail thumping softly against the floor as she passes. It's like he remembers. Sometimes I catch myself smiling at the whole thing. I didn't need revenge. I didn't have to yell or fight. I just let the truth and one very loyal dog speak for me. People like Karen think power comes from rules and titles and clipboards. But real power is staying calm, standing your ground and letting justice unfold on its own. Because in the end, no one is above the law.